Huh, weird. Well, I didn't know. Okay, so apparently my microphone was completely disconnected. Yay! Okay, fun stuff. I'm going to send out one last tweet just in case anybody wants to join us. Okay. Oh, hi, Kitty. Okay, so I think I've actually figured things out now. Maybe, possibly, kind of, sort of. Let me get that link again. So, welcome to the stream. This is like my third attempt at actually starting the stream. I'm not talented at this, sorry. Dropping a link right now for the charity in case anybody wants to donate. I know money's tight right now because of all the coronavirus nonsense going on. So, yes. Looks like I'm frame dropping like crazy. And I don't know why. My cat has a lot to say about it. If you hear a cat in the background, by the way, that's my cat Ninja. He is a food bag, so do be aware of that. All right, well, frame rate or not, I'm going to see what I can do about playing so that I can keep you all entertained at least. Anyway, so welcome to the stream. Here we go. Is that me? Yeah, that's me. Today's subject is going to be about vaccines, pet vaccines specifically, although, what? Hang on. Oh, I'm still on that silly freen. There we go. Ha ha. There we go. That's better. Would help if I actually changed the frame. So, yes, as everybody knows, it's important to vaccinate your pets. The question is, do you know why it's important to vaccinate your pets and for what? So, obviously, there's that whole vaccines thing going on right now in the world. I am obviously not an anti vaxxer. I never have been. I never will be, particularly not when it comes to pets because, um, that's, there's no evidence whatsoever to suggest that vaccines cause autism in humans, never mind in pets. So that is always fun to try to explain to people that their golden retriever is just a golden retriever, and no, he does not have autism. Ow, there. So yes, I'm about to die. Yeah. Um, let's start with dogs. Dogs are easy. They're actually not. They're some of the most complicated ones out there because dogs have many vaccines which we use. Um, First, of course, that everybody knows is rabies. I'm really bad at this. Rabies is zoonotic, as everybody knows. What that means, in case you need some not jargon, is that it can be transmitted to humans rather easily. Anything that I call zoonotic is to transmit to humans just as easily as it is to animals. So bear that in mind throughout the conversation. Rabies, of course, is a health risk for multiple reasons because it's almost always fatal. And there's really no way to know that you have it without testing first and or being symptomatic. And once you're symptomatic, you're pretty screwed. It's transmitted via the saliva and or bodily fluids of mammals, by and large. Hang on, plot point. I get dash. Yay! Shiny new ability! I think this is the one where I actually get to jump through. Yep, Oh, bash, not dash. Is it Y? Yes. So rabies is a big deal. It's not something to be taken lightly. By and large, the only animals that we classify for rabies are mammals. I don't think we've done a whole lot of studying in terms of whether or not any other animals can get it. But really and truly, literally, oh how. Any animal that is warm-blooded can, in fact, get rabies. Oh, yeah. Just by virtue of the fact that, well, I mean, any animal can get bit. Damn. Maybe I don't come at it from underneath. So, cats can also get it. We also vaccinate cats for it, obviously. But dogs, by and large, are the only ones that are legally required to have it because they are much more likely to be humans and then have people make a fuss about quarantining them. So, by the time your dog is about 6 months of age, I want to say, most places will be like, "Hey, you need to get your dog licensed." Ow, that was dumb. And that requires a valid rabies certificate. Now, sometimes dogs can and do have reactions to rabies vaccines. Any animal can have a reaction to a vaccine. That is a possibility, and I'm not going to discount that. If your animal has a rabies vaccine reaction, they will make special dispensations, really, just because it's more important that the animal stays healthy than be vaccinated for it. What do I mean by vaccine reactions? Vaccine reactions can look like a number of different things, but by and large, if you can think of anaphylaxis, that's what a vaccine reaction will look like. Swelling of the face, hives, difficulty breathing to such an extent that, that they cannot breathe. Oh, son of a biscuit. Let's see. Swelling at the site is a slightly less traumatic vaccine reaction that we see. It does happen, but generally speaking, what we'll do is we'll just say, okay, we'll give them some diphenhydramine and call it good. But rabies is one of those ones that we definitely vaccinate for. Usually in the right hind of a pet. We usually have locations for where various vaccines go so that we can track. Yay, it broke. We can track whether or not they're having a localized reaction, say that that swelling at the site that I was talking about, in which case then we can go, oh, okay, well, it was the rabies that they reacted to, as opposed to the distemper parvo. Distemper parvo, since I'm on the subject, is the next core vaccine for dogs. Ow. That is one that I am going to fight on to my deathbed, because I lost a puppy myself to parvo, and it was awful, and it's a violent way to die, and it sucks, and please vaccinate your dogs for parvo. Distemper isn't exactly nice. Distemper is more of a neurological problem. They end up getting a fever so high that it starts to cause brain damage. Parvo, similarly, is a GI disease where it basically just sheds the entirety of the lining of the GI tract, and they lose all of their nutrients and all of their moisture, and they just dehydrate and die of malnutrition. And ow. And it's just not good, obviously. Is there a way I can hit you without running into spikes? Ow. Wonder if I can. Do that. There we go. Now, when you see distemper parvo injections, they usually are like DHAPP or DAP or DA2PP. What that means is it's distemper adenovirus parvovirus and parainfluenza, not to be confused with influenza. If dog flu is something else entirely, I'll get to that in a minute. So they're extremely contagious diseases. They're stubborn little viruses that can live in the soil for up to 2-3 years, I think, is the current estimate. It's just not something you want to risk if you ever have an animal. Ooh, plot point. You got it. Destroy corruption. Name of my game. So, considering the fact that they are as contagious as they are, and they have a tendency to be as difficult to eradicate as they are, if you have an animal that has had distemper or parvo in the past year, and then you get a puppy, and that puppy is exposed, now you have a very high likelihood that that puppy is also going to get one of those diseases. So don't risk it. If your puppy ends up getting one of those diseases, please, 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 please bleach everything. Bleach is one of the only things really that'll kill it. I can't express sanitizing enough. And make sure you vaccinate your new one to make sure that that one survives. The only way to really, I don't want to use the word cure. The only way to deal with it is to treat it as best you can. There is no cure. You just kind of have to nurse them through it and hope they survive. It's something like a 75% mortality rate by the time you catch symptoms for things like parvo. So your odds aren't good. I will say that right off the bat. So it's really one of those things where prevention is so much better than cure. So please take that into account. That's one of the reasons we call it core vaccine. Sorry, I tried not to cough into the mic there. That one needs to be boosted, unfortunately, fairly frequently. That means you start them at 8 weeks, and you just kind of keep going until they're, I want to say, pretty close to 6 months of age. They'll be like 4 months old and still getting parvo vaccine. And I know that's inconvenient, and I know you don't like it, and it does cost money, but it's for the best. What's the next thing I was going to say? Rabies, by and large, oops, totally screwed that one up, is not a vaccine that needs to be boosted right away. In my clinic, at least, or in all of the clinics that I've been in. Brilliant. We will vaccinate an animal for the first one for a year. So rabies is good for 1 year, and then if you keep it up to date and are considered risk, like you're not a hunting dog or something, I'm talking like you're the animal, that's great, then we can make it good for 3 years. But if you're not consistent with your protocols, then it might need to be good for 3 years again, or it may need to be good for 1 year, just because we weren't able to keep it consistent. We'd want the titers back right. When it comes to distemper, parvo, and rabies, those are really the top ones. Like, everything else be damned. If you can't vaccinate your animal for anything else, at least get those two. It's just smart, and you don't want to run the risk of your dog biting someone and then having to be euthanized because of the fact that you don't have a current rabies, or having to be quarantined for 6 months, or being potentially put down. It's not, which is the same as euthanasia, of course. I'm repeating myself. Yay, cough meds. And then distemper parvo is just, like I said, a very ugly way to die. So it's just smart to get dogs vaccinated for those two, if nothing else. FYI, this is a part in the game where things get really hectic, so I'm going to be trying to talk while doing this and trying not to die. This is my first dungeon, and things are going to get really crazy here in a minute. So, here we go. Because, see, I don't want to drown. Out of my way, doggy. Run! Run, don't walk. Ow. So, those are the core vaccines for dogs. But they have a lot of vaccines that they can have done to keep them safe. One of the top ones that I generally recommend that is considered elective is called leptospirosis. Leptospirosis is another one of those zoonotic diseases I was telling you about. Oh shit. Woohoo! Trying not to die. Leptospirosis is a bacteria. We don't have a lot of vaccines for bacteria per se, because it's a little bit trickier. Usually vaccines are for viruses because it's just a little bit easier to manage. Oh shit, I needed that guy. I needed him. No. There we go. Don't want to die, don't want to die, don't want to die. Woo! Wow, I think that's the first time I've ever made that on the first run through. Holy shit. I almost always die a million times on this thing. But look how pretty it is. Isn't that nice? I love this game. If you don't have this game, get this game. Oh yeah, by the way, she's mad at me. Let's go faster. Ah. By the way, if you look closely, I believe Ori has hooves. Kua disagrees with me. He says they're toes. Gumo, you saved my life. My man. My cat apparently has something to say about it. I can swim now. The Misty Woods. Okay. I can do that. All right. Where was I? So, leptospirosis is a nasty little disease that will actually attack your liver and your kidney function. Obviously, that's bad. But more to the point, you can give it to your dog just as much as your dog can give it to you. Faster? No? Oh, I can swim faster. Careful. I actually had a case with a West Highland Terrier. There was a guy who came in and gave us his little Westie to take care of. And unfortunately, it was a situation of him having given it to the dog. He had cleared out his crawl space. There were 25 dead raccoons under his house. Cleared them out, got exposed to leptospirosis, was terribly sick, ended up in the hospital while we were taking care of his West Highland, who also had leptospirosis and was terribly sick. And we did our best. His Westie made it. He made it. But it's generally not a disease you want to have to try to fight if you don't have to. Oh, hey, I've got like 2 abilities I can buy here. Let's see here. Let's do that. Hang on, I'm going to cough here. Yay. Air dash sounds like a great idea. Let's do that. Oh, I need 2 ability points. Dang. Let's do split flame then. So, generally speaking, the way it's transmitted is through wildlife via their urine, of all things. So, if you have a rat, raccoon, rabbit, anything else that starts with R, deer, fox, skunk, any wild animal that comes into your backyard and pees, your dog can potentially get that, and then you end up with all kinds of problems. So, getting them vaccinated for... Are you serious right now? Getting them vaccinated for it is generally a very good idea, so you don't have to worry about getting it yourself or your pet getting it. So, generally speaking, we can combine that. Most places will have the option to combine leptospirosis vaccine with the distemper parvo. So it's a DA2PPL vaccine. This is where things can turn into word salad. And that will need to be boosted at least once in a 3 to 4 week period before it can be considered sufficient, and then it will need to be boosted every year after that. It's unfortunate that we have to booster it that often, but no, it is. For it to be effective, we do have to booster it every year. That one I recommend for anybody whose dog goes outside, period, flat out. You never know whether or not you have a squirrel that decided to take a leak in your grass and then expose Fifi if Fifi goes outside to go pee. So it's just generally a good idea, if you can, to vaccinate your dog for leptospirosis. And again, since it can be combined with distemper parvo, it just makes it a little bit easier in that regard. Distemper parvo and rabies are the only 2 vaccines that we can really make good for 3 years in dogs. Leptospirosis and all the rest that I'm going to talk about need to be annually boosted. And that's pretty common across the board. Next one I'll talk about is Bordetella, not to be confused with Bordello. That is something else entirely. I have heard everything from Bordello to Bordella to Bordellini. Portobello, yeah, Portobello vaccine, that's a good one. I've had all kinds of crazy different ways of hearing that one. So, what's Dash? Am I having trouble with Dash? Is it that button? No, that button. I've been playing Ori and the Will of the Wisps, so I'm having a little bit of trouble remembering which buttons are to which game now. I know I'm a horrible person playing both games at once. Bordetella is also known as kennel cough. If you get confused, you can always say I need the kennel cough vaccine, and everybody will know what you mean. Cough piranha. There are two methods that the Bordetella vaccine can be given, and that is intranasally. Yes, it goes up the nose. Are you serious right now? And it's a bit like the flu mist vaccine, if you think about it, honestly. We just take a little thing and squirt it up the nose, and you're good for a year. That one does not need to be boosted right away, but it does need to be boosted annually. Most groomers will recommend it for the safety of your own animal. Most boarding facilities will require it. So if you plan on boarding your animal, you will almost certainly need to have the Bordetella vaccine on board. There's also an injectable form. In my previous clinic, we would reserve the injectable form primarily for patients that were problematic, dangerous to handle, otherwise not candidates where you'd want to put your fingers anywhere near their mouths, that kind of a thing. But there's some debate as to whether or not the intranasal vaccine is more effective than the injectable. So your mileage may vary. Talk to your veterinarian about what works best for you and your pet. Might also depend a little bit on the vaccine maker. But there are those two options out there in case you need them. That one I recommend if you, well, one, board your dog or kennel your dog or do anything at all ever that involves your dog going where it might be exposed to other dogs. So if you ever take your dog to a dog park, if you show your dog, if you take your dog anywhere at all where, God damn it, where other dogs are present, get your dog vaccinated for Bordetella. It's really easy. And again, it doesn't need to be boosted but once a year, so it's really not that big of a deal. Let's see. Lyme disease. We have a vaccine for Lyme disease in dogs. I don't know if we have one in humans. I really don't. Because human medicine is not my thing. It just isn't. That's not what I do. So that one goes in the... hang on a second. I'm going to see if I can join the chat here on my laptop. I better pause it so I don't, die in the meantime. Lyme disease I only really recommend for dogs that are exposed. If you go into tick country, if you work, live, play in places where Lyme is endemic, for example, the South, the East Coast, the Rocky Mountains, anywhere where Lyme disease is common and or where ticks are common, strongly recommend Lyme disease vaccine because it's better than sorry. We can test it as well. It's actually pretty easy to run a quick blood test and see whether or not your dog has ever been exposed to Lyme. Once they've been exposed, they will all test positive, even if they are asymptomatic. So do bear that in mind if you ever get your dog tested for Lyme disease. But yeah, there is a vaccine for it. Ooh, blood point. Oh, finally, I get the butt drop. Yay. All right, and butt drop. Yeah. All right, hang on a second here. Astria's cat box. There I am. Sorry, apparently my laptop needed to do a whole bunch of updates before I could actually load it up. So now I can actually look at the chat. Yay! So Lyme is one of the vaccines that we see a lot of reactions to, unfortunately. It kind of sucks, but that's the case. Get in around. That one typically goes in the, I want to say, upper left shoulder. And it tends to sting more. It tends to itch more. So if you don't need to have it, you might consider. Uh-oh. Yay! I can finally beat those guys. You might consider avoiding that one, just because you don't want to put your dog at risk if you don't have to. It's not a dangerous vaccine by any stretch, so don't do that. But it does cause more reactions than most of the other ones that we use. So do be aware of that if you ever decide to get your animal vaccinated for Lyme. It's not considered a core vaccine for that reason. Let's see here. I'm saying a lot. That's bad. Whee. Influenza. There is a dog influenza out there. We had an outbreak actually a little while ago in Chicago a couple of years ago, and then here in the Pacific Northwest as well. Just last year, was it? Winter before last. And it's pretty nasty. It's just like human flu in the fact that it presents with upper respiratory problems. It can lead to death. So, shiny. If you can get your dog vaccinated for it, that's always a bonus. Just to be safe rather than sorry. Needs to be boosted at least once. And then is good for a year after that. Every year. Some groomers will ask you to have it. More often than not, it's boarding facilities that will ask you to have it. Just for the safety of... Oh, man. I can't get down there. For the safety of the dog, because they're exposed to other pets. But that's really it in terms of it. It's not considered a core vaccine because influenza in dogs is not endemic. We see outbreaks here and there, but it's really uncommon by and large. So you're not going to see like outbreak of it in your neighborhood kind of a situation. That's pretty much it for dogs. As far as I can think of. What am I missing? How do I not get... Can't get through there. There's got to be a switch or something that lowers the water level. And I'm missing it. Anybody see a switch that I didn't see? Ah, piranha. Die, piranha. What? It's going to eat me. I don't want to get eaten. There we go. So, you will hear people say things like, the rabies vaccine causes a shorter lifespan in Scottish Terriers. What's the other good one that I've heard before? Like Borzois can't get flu. Yeah, it's like just really weird, random shit like that sometimes. I am here to assure you that none of that is true. Dang, it just won't go. So if anybody tries to tell you that, tell them they're full shit. It's just a fact. Let's move on to cats then. So cats are interesting because they only have 3. Is that a Triforce? Somebody carved a Triforce in this tree. That's ridiculous. It's the Easter eggs. So cats get 3 vaccines. By and large, There may be a fourth one coming. That would be awesome if it could. I'll talk on that in a second. Cats get rabies, again, zoonotic. They get their own form of distemper parvo vaccine, which is not either distemper or parvo. You may hear of people say, oh, well, it's feline distemper. It's basically just shorthand for what it actually is. It's in the same family, but it's not the same disease. Cats don't get distemper, they get panleukopenia, which is a lot more fun to say, but much more difficult to remember than distemper. So that's probably why you'll hear people say, oh, well, feline distemper. There's got to be a place I'm missing somewhere. This is frustrating. Well, at least it's pretty. That one, much like the dog distemper parvo circuit, does need to be boosted quite as regularly, starting at 8 weeks. Now, why I say starting at 8 weeks with both dogs and cats is because while the animal is nursing, it is protected by its mother's colostrum. It has natural antibodies in it. And yeah, the Triforce is pretty cool. If you vaccinate an animal while they are still protected by the maternal antibodies, it just won't do anything really. It's not that it cancels it out. It's not that it makes them weaker. You're just basically wasting it. It's not helping. It's not hurting, but really, but it's not hurting. So we just don't recommend doing it because it's useless. So starting at 8 weeks, start with the feline distemper, which is feline leukemia, panleukopenia. Dang it, I'm getting my ass kicked here. I play like shit when I'm sick. Oh, I forgot I had that ability. Maybe that's how I get through. I'll try that in a minute. Damn, I'm hurt. Ow. It's known as FVRCP, much like the DAHLPP word salad. It's similar. It's feline rhinotracheitis calicivirus panleukopenia. It's basically a what all ails cats upper respiratory wise. Nope, that didn't do it. Now I'm out of on. Yay. So cats are particularly prone to upper respiratory infections. It's a really good idea to protect them against as many as you can. Those are the ones that we have actual vaccines for. So, hang on a second. There we go. Dash midair. Yay. I've seen cases of calicivirus. It's ugly. Snot, sneezing, difficulty breathing. It's just nobody likes it. So if you can avoid it, that'd be awesome. So get your cats vaccinated for FERCP. It does require a lot of boosters. I'm sorry. Yes, that's still the case. But it's worth it in the long run. Much like distemper parvo, if you keep it up to date and you make sure that your animal is taken care of, you can actually do that once every 3 years. Now, your mileage may vary on that because some veterinarians will suggest that if your animal is indoor-outdoor, which I am a very strong, outspoken advisor type person for indoor-only cats for their own well-being, if nothing else. They may elect to do it where they booster it every year, just because of the fact that they get more exposure. It's transmitted via contact with other cats, typically through nose-to-nose contact, through fighting, saliva, but really it can be also just through contact with contaminated things like feces, etc. So, is that all that was in here? Really? I'm going to suffocate for that? Whew, that was close. There has to be something I'm missing somewhere. This is really really aggravating. Well, that was cool. So, vaccinate your cats for FERCP, vaccinate them for rabies, and the third one is kind of a year mileage may vary. It's feline leukemia virus. For whatever reason, there is a virus specifically that causes leukemia in cats. We found a way to isolate it and to create a vaccine for it. There's no reason to not get it if your cat has the ability to be in, ouch, I just drowned. That was stupid of me. To be in contact with other cats. Transmitted via cat fights, cat blood, cat saliva, really anything that has been cat or cat contact can and will transmit feline leukemia virus. Which is one of the reasons that if you have an indoor or outdoor cat or a cat that is exposed to other cats of unknown status, that it's a good idea to get them vaccinated for FELV. Now, I will say for the record that generally speaking, I have indoor-only cats that I get vaccinated for FELV just to be on the safe side. Because cats can be runners sometimes. And, hang on a second, I'm going to look at this map and see if I can't figure out what's... How do I look at the map? Oh, it's just looking at the map. It's literally the only way out of here. Huh. Can't go through there. Can't go through there. I don't know how to get through this thing. I've forgotten. Well, at least I got that. Nope. Where was I? Feline leukemia virus. If your cat is indoor only, it's definitely your choice whether or not you want to vaccinate them for feline leukemia. It doesn't hurt them. But do be aware with cats, because cats are aliens, that cats, god damn it, cats can get what are called feline injection site sarcomas. I was kind of worried, frankly, initially, when my own cat, Rose, developed a cancer on her left leg, because the left hind leg is where we vaccinate for feline leukemia, that she had a feline injection site sarcoma from that. However, when they did a histopathology report on the tumor, they found no antibodies in it that suggested that that's what the cause was. So do be aware that even potentially infecting your cat with sterile water could potentially cause a cancerous growth. So that is something to keep in mind. Obviously, you don't want to over-vaccinate your animal if you don't have to. Where did that other side come out? I went too far. Ouch. God, I'm bad at this. Nope, not there. Those are the only 3 vaccines for cats. So thankfully you don't have to do a whole lot with them, which is good because cats really don't like getting poked with needles. They're usually less patient about it than dogs are. So it's a nice thing to not have to poke them as much. There's gotta be a... Oh! That's how! I'm a dunce. Bingo! That's what lets the water out. Okay, sorry for that taking so long, everybody. That was really silly of me. I feel very, very foolish in this moment. So that's it for cats in terms of their vaccines. Any questions so far? While I try not to drown again. Give me all the experience points. Okay, so I'm not seeing any questions coming up in the chat. So I will state for the record that there are actually some vaccines for horses as well as for cows and other such animals. I don't know as much about them because, frankly, that's not what I work in, so that's what I'm less familiar with. I can tell you there is a West Nile virus vaccine for horses because horses have a just astronomical fatality rate if they get infected with West Nile. I want to say it's like 50%. It's just absolutely heinous. Um, and obviously, we want to keep horses safe, so vaccinating them against West Nile is always better than having to try and treat them through it. A little bit more about the diseases, perhaps, that we're discussing. Maybe without the death part of things, though. I really feel like if I have triple jump, I know I can make that, but I don't have triple jump. Nope, not quite. Okay. Just have to wait for triple jump, as tempting as that is. So, rabies, generally speaking, signs that most people know about. The frothing at the mouth thing is from inability to swallow and hypersalivation. It used to be called hydrophobia. It is not actually a fear of water. It was named as such because animals couldn't drink, and so they were and they would act crazy. So they'd go to the water, they couldn't swallow because their throats were constricted, and then they would act like crazy lunatics and chew on themselves and stuff like that. So generally speaking, that's where that phrase comes from. Also marked by a ridiculously high fever, which results in brain damage. Eventually, you just kind of cook yourself in your own brain juices because it's that bad. Also puts tiny little lesions in your brain, which is why when an animal is suspected of carrying it, they euthanize the animal and they test the brain. They take a little piece out for those classic lesions, those little necrotizing bodies. Let's see if I save it here. Can I just die? I can just die. That's what I. You know what? I'll just skip that for right now since I don't have triple jump. Hey spider, sit at me. Thank you. Ha! Eat it. So yeah. If you ever start noticing that your animal is looking listless, disoriented, etc., that's usually a good sign that something is definitely amiss and should be looked at. And oh God, I was stupid. And if they've had any contact whatsoever with a wild animal, that can be a pretty good indicator that they may have rabies. So rather than immediately euthanizing your pet, excuse me, say if they've been mauled by a raccoon or something, more common than you think. Rather than putting them down, you can always put them into a 6-month minimum quarantine to see if they exhibit any symptoms. You can also opt to do a rabies titer test to see whether or not their rabies vaccine is doing the job. Those test for the antigens in the blood to make sure that they are in fact still able to fight off anything. It's expensive, just to warn you. So it's not the first go-to for most people because it's just prohibitively expensive. That being said, if you have a dog that has a vaccine reaction to the rabies vaccine, it's not necessarily a bad option to do a rabies titer test instead, just to see whether or not they're protected without needing to actually put them through the vaccine part of things. How? Distemper parvo. First signs are, let's see here. Parvo is almost always marked lethargy, accompanied by listlessness, inappetence, they start throwing up, they start having diarrhea. Diarrhea usually comes first. Just not good at this. Do 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 do. Wee. But I'll keep trying. So yes, diarrhea usually comes first. Vomiting, can't usually keep anything down. They just feel like garbage, so they start getting really listless and just aren't their usual peppy puppy selves. Can happen to dogs at any age. Just because you have an adult dog does not mean that they can't get parvo. It just tends to infect puppies much more frequently because they have very naive immune systems and are often to be actually vaccinated for it. Distemper has similar symptoms by and large. Usually starts with them feeling like garbage and an extremely high fever. Let me in. I want to go in there. How do I get in there? From somewhere else. Okay. Ooh, but I can get a thing down there. Wee. Wee. There we go. I mean, cool, I guess. There's nothing up here. Yeah. Oh, booger it all. There. You know, given the times, I'm gonna bring it up. I debated bringing this up. I wasn't 100% sure if I wanted to, just because of everything. But we used to vaccinate dogs for coronavirus back in the day. Wow, I am not supposed to go down there yet. I don't think. But I can still get this one. There's a coronavirus for most animals. Cats have one. They do not currently have a vaccine for it, like dogs. Cats coronavirus, unfortunately, has a tendency to develop into what is known as FIP, feline infectious peritonitis. FIP, for the time being, is a death sentence. And I wish I was making that up. Ouch. But for the time being, we do not have a way of guarding against it. Basically, what happens is most cats will at least carry the disease. Many of them will have virus and show no symptoms. That's pretty common. Many cats are in utero. There's nothing about that. It's just what it is. But oh, dumb idea. Woo! All right. We did have a vaccine for it at one point in time, but it was proven to be righteously ineffective. Point in fact, it did the opposite of what it was supposed to do. Once we started doing clinical trials, an obscene number of cats actually got the disease rather than preventing the disease. So we stopped using it. Drop a lot of frame again. Hang on a second. Mm-hmm. Settings. I'll have to end the stream in order to do it, I think. Okay. Okay, so it looks like I'll have to stop the stream in order to actually change the thing. But we're almost out of time anyway. So cats will have the coronavirus and not usually have a problem. Oh, it's still small, right? Just because of the fact that they just will handle it somehow. But if they don't, if they do actually end up, unfortunately, succumbing to the virus, it will almost certainly kill them. It usually happens in younger animals, typically before the age of 2. However, we are working on a vaccine right now that's showing a lot of promise and may actually put an end to FIP, which would be just absolutely amazing. Maybe it just needed a moment to refresh. I don't know. But I'm glad it's working now. Yay! Ooh, shit. Don't fall off. Shit, I've forgotten how to get out of here. So, so that's in the works. We're trying to make that happen so that cats don't have to worry about prematurely having their lives ended due to a stupid-ass virus. Like I said, we used to vaccinate dogs for coronavirus. They have their own coronavirus as well. We stopped because it proved to be a largely ineffective vaccine, not unlike in cats. Save so I don't die and have to do all that over again. And I'm going to sneeze here in a minute. Beg pardon. So we've got some things coming up that may be better for animals as we go. By and large, coronavirus is not something you see in dogs terribly often. As I understand it, there is some occasional outbreakage in places like the Netherlands, and it's kind of like they get a flu and then they get over it. You just have to kind of nurse them through it. But as of right now, coronavirus in dog and cats, it's not something you need to worry about. It's non-transmissible to humans. You can't give them COVID. The one that's affecting us is not affecting animals, and the one that's affecting animals is not affecting us. The reason that this is so scary, honestly, is because of the fact that it jumped species. It wasn't supposed to at all. So that's part of the problem. Our bodies are not used to this. We don't have our own coronavirus, as far as I know, unlike most other places and creatures. So yeah, that's fun. So that's it's a bit scary, honestly. We're just not altogether prepared to deal with this particular pathogen, just because of sheer dumb luck. But as you know, mutable pathogens are a thing. Tends to run out eventually. So this honestly was to be expected eventually. Whether or not we'll be able to come up with an antiviral solution or seriously, don't die there. That's embarrassing. Or if we actually come up with a vaccine, I hope that if the vaccine actually comes through, that it'll actually be more effective than the ones that we had in, say, dogs or cats. How it possibly mutated. Current theory is that it just mutated because of its circumstance, that it was being carried by a host animal and then was ingested, and then that host animal pathogen to its environment and went, oh, hey, this isn't so bad after all. Which is obviously a problem. Do I just not know how to jump anymore? Is that my problem? I'm too used to Ori too. That's what my husband says. But that's the current theory right now. Ultimately, knowing where it came from. Oh, Jesus Christ. Maybe I shouldn't go that way. But I have to. My shit's all the way over there. I don't want to say hi to the goth bird. He wants to eat me. I mean, she is pretty, but damn. Don't eat me. Same shit got us into this problem is people eating things that they probably shouldn't have. So yeah, mutations in cross-species stuff like that happen all the time. Yeah, please don't mix up corvids with covids. Crows had absolutely nothing to do with this. This is not their fault. They're being maligned viciously, and it is slander in the worst way. So please don't blame crows for this in any capacity. I don't know a whole lot about the magpies. Look, just because I said it was potentially an animal that was eaten doesn't mean it was a magpie, okay? Just saying. I feel like this... Yay! It does a thing. Ow. I completely lost my train of thought. It's magpies. I blame Kua. I usually do. He's used to this by now. So, in terms of care for animals and nursing, etc., as always, if you see an animal, pet or otherwise, that seems to be just not acting itself, try not to get any slobber on anything. Try to, be practicing safe precautions, etc., just in case they're carrying something that's zoonotic. Generally speaking, you're going to be okay. Most things are pretty obvious, and most pathogens are not zoonotic, but you want to be on the safe side rather than on the not safe side. Living on the dangerous side. Surprise butt jump by a freaking frog, asshole. I don't even know where I am now. Oh, cool. Thingy. So I think at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and save, because I don't even know where I am. But as I keep on going, I will state for the record that health professionals currently are working on coronavirus for humans very admirably. Give them the level of support. They need it right now. Partly because of the fact that everybody's panicking, but also because of the fact that if this all dies down with very little impact to you or your family or to the world in general, they're going to be ignored in part of the success of this. And by that I mean somebody's going to be like, oh, well, see, it wasn't that bad after all. And I cannot tell you how frustrating that is as a medical professional, even in my own particular arena. That, yeah, rabies is no fucking joke, dude. That shit's scary. I actually was bitten by an animal that was potentially rabid once. It was a kitten, unfortunately. Was absolutely unfucking fair. It was a little guy, just I want to say maybe 9 weeks old, and came in lateral recumbency, could not raise its head for more than a couple of seconds at a time, and I volunteered to go in because I knew that if I got aced, that I at least was vaccinated for rabies, unlike most of my coworkers. So that's why I went into that room, and she did bite me when I was trying to place the catheter for her euthanasia. It was very, very sad circumstance, but it was a mercy. She was not going to make it. So use all the spirit light. So yeah, if things turned out okay, it's because health officials have done their job very admirably in the face of crazy circumstances. If it's wildly controlled, like it honestly kind of already is, it's lazy or not doing their job. It's quite the opposite. They're facing an uphill battle. So everybody practice good hygiene. Everybody be good. Treat each other with respect and practice social distancing. Sound like your mother. Sorry. And that's all I have to say for today. If a vaccine becomes available, it will probably be expensive. I'm sorry. That is probably the case because capitalism. Um, not for the lack of trying on the part of health officials, because most of them get into this work much like I do because they actually give a damn. It's not for glory, I assure you. Most people don't even talk about health officials until shit hits the fan. So, yeah, that's it for today. Any other last questions before I end the stream? Oh, some of you need it. I have a tendency to mom things I really shouldn't, so I will sometimes smother people. So if I ever get smothery, please just tell me to get off, and I will. All right. Well, it doesn't look like anybody has any follow-up questions. That's fair. Yeah. I'm not a mom, though. I don't have an excuse. All right. So, as always, the stream is based entirely on my own education and experience. If you have any real and true problems, make sure you go see a veterinarian because they have a lot more schooling than I do. Until next time, please take care of yourself. Yeah, I am a critter mom. That's true. Oh, he does a cute little stretch thing as his idol. Oh my god, that's adorable. This is the cutest thing ever. Okay. Sorry. Everybody be good. We'll see you next time.